in today's playtest chat, Dale came forward and said that he wants to try something out. Now, obviously, I think most people know by now, they've seen in Discord and newsletter, that we're doing a Unicron tournament for the top teams because at the top end of the game's got quite stale. Most people got a set team that can destroy any Prime League base and 300 most bases. Now, granted, not everyone in the game can do that. And sometimes when I talk about these things, I hear people say, yeah, but not everyone is in the top alliances, Wozza. Not everyone can do that. I understand that, no doubt. But if you're a growing player, you've got something to achieve, you've got something to try and strive for. I want to try and get in Prime League, I want to try and 300 in Prime League. But once you're at that top level of the game, and you can almost achieve perfection, then what's the enticement to do events? What's the enticement to level bots? There isn't any. What's the enticement to even play the game other than wars? You don't need any spark. You don't need any cores because you can 300 quite easily. So they brought out this Unicron tournament to try and entice people into spending, leveling bots, enjoying the game a bit more, give them a challenge, and I'm all for that. But it's only a short fix because it's a tournament that they'll manually do. And they said that they're going to try and make it automated and bring out a tournament for everyone to sort of participate in. But it still needs more. They've promised a new game mode. They've promised new changes to the game, but it needs something a bit sooner. And so I've talked about previously, I said that, I don't really like these nerfs that they do sometimes. And I know a lot of people say that it's not a nerf, it's a fix. And I've even said that myself. But I never like to see a bot nerfed. But the problem is that there's some bots in the game that are massively overpowered. And sometimes they'll said in the chat, I said, what do you think about class buffs? And I've gone, you know what? A class buff would be great, but you can't buff these bots. So, for example, pipes, you could not buff pipes. But you could not buff even Ironhide. But I would like a warrior buff, generally, for bots that haven't got the rushing shield. So the likes of Aerial, the likes of Dino bot, likes of even Goldfire. Those bots like that, I would like a little buff for. I would like a buff for gunners. But you can't buff 6-gun. You can't buff C-Spray. They're far too overpowered. So because of these certain bots in the classes that are massively overpowered, you can't do class buffs. And so they're trying their hardest to buff some bots. And we spoke about legacy bots and legacy batches where we saw with Drift and Huffer. But sadly, whilst in testing, the apes have come back and said the idea behind these is not to bring them into the meta. The idea is to make them just useful. And my response to that was, well, they're already useful for Zen farming. But people don't aspire for Zen farming bots. People have got many, many, many Zen farming bots. They've got hundreds of bots. When you've got people like myself, with this amount of 5 stars that can solo zone 15, and the amount of 4 stars even that can solo zone 15. I mean, this is a test account, but it's pretty much mirrored my normal account, minus a few different bots. Zen farm is too easy. It's too monotonous. I don't need more bots for Zen farm. I need more options for war. I also need more problems in war to solve those problems with more bots. At the minute, there's a lot of focus on the MDS, on the healing cluster, on the shield gen, mortars, beam lasers, anything else like that. No one bothers about them. Outpost bots, healing cluster with MDS. That's pretty much it. If you can get round the combiner, outpost bots, and that cluster, you've pretty much destroyed the base, as long as you've got a healer with you. So, they need to bring something refreshing out. And so Dale put forward today about class buffs using certain bots. So having a list of maybe 4 or 5 bots, and those bots will give you a buff. But non-meta bots. Now, this will be a sandbox, only available to people at the higher end of the game to go into. It will be more difficult than Prime League, but you'll also have buffs. I think the idea behind this is that if they did it wide, long throughout the game, that it can have serious implications at lower levels, and it might even break the game. So they're a bit concerned about what they're doing here, because they're doing something quite fresh with an idea. So they're going to create a sandbox top end of the game. And that's like a testing ground for these things to buff certain bots whenever they feel like it. And you know what? If it breaks that league to the point where everyone's using it, they can soon revert it. They can go, listen, we're not going to go with that. It was fun for the time, but we're going to revert it back. It was too OP. But they do something and it balances quite well, and people are willing to spend to do that, and it works well. They can go, you know what? We're going to do this in the game. We're going to bring it out like a legacy bot where you can go and fight for it if you want to. And I think that'll have good implications in the long run. Let me know what you think. I think a lot of people that are lower level will be disappointed they can't get these buffs because it's going to be higher than Prime League. But I think that they're doing this to see how much they can push difficulty at the top levels, how much they can push these bots to come back into the meta, whether it's well accepted, where people will level to do that, rather than bringing it out for the whole game first. It's an interesting concept. It's still in its first stages, so nothing's been set in stone yet on how it's going to work. They'll sort of throw a few ideas around, had a bit of a knockback saying, well, you can't really do that, you can't really do this, that won't really work. There was a lot of 4-star bots in there. I just don't think that top level players that are competing in Unicron are going to use 4-star bots. So, for example, the likes of Grapple were in there. We're like, no one's really going to use Grapple. People are going to stick to Rook that they've already got. But there are some 5-stars in there that they could maybe buff to make them relevant. And people will think, you know what, I'm going to try that in my war. I'm going to level that. So we have said today that, you know, I said personally that it needs to be well planned in advance. I've said this time and time again, and Dale did sort of say that in the chat, that they've been criticised for not looking ahead and planning things. And I'm hoping that we can plan this over the next few weeks. We can then say, listen, in 3 months' time, these bots are going to be buffed this way, and or whatever stat upgrade, and they are going to be really relevant for this Unicron tournament or whatever we've got in 3 months' time. Get ready for it. And you can start a plan and go, you know what, I am going to buff them. Hopefully, the content creators can show these buffs well in advance and go, listen, guys, if you spend money on this guy, this is what you're going to get eventually. Then we hope that it does really well in them tournaments and people really do level it and use it. And then we can go, you know what, let's roll it out to everyone. Let's roll this buff out to everyone in every single league and see how it goes. So, Dale's calling it a sandbox. It's sort of a testing ground for the top players with extreme difficulty, but with some extreme buffs to go with it. So let me know what you think in the chat. Again, still early stages. Nothing's been decided or agreed upon. But I'm interested in the concept. It's something different, something to look forward to, something to plan towards, rather than living in the now. Something new coming out and then us having to react to it. We can actually plan in advance and maybe level some bots ready for it. That's my take on it. Let me know what you think, Harry.